What would you do if you were beset upon on all sides by enemies?
Oh, I feel surrounded. This might be my last stream.
Would you lash out at everyone and try to swing your sword at whoever you could reach? If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. Or maybe you'd like to focus your efforts on drilling your way out in one specific direction, while your second line attempts to defend your flanks. But your enemy is smart too, and they are going to attack you with everything they have.
Welcome, guys, to episode 22 of PocketBased. PocketBased is the premier dev channel for all things PocketBase, PocketHost, PocketPages, PocketStar. I even cover the stuff that you guys are working on, and we're going to have a few guests on pretty soon. They call me Cap. I'm the creator of the open source project PocketHost, the premier multi-tenant Pocket-based hosting platform. I also run the paid service pockethost.io. That's where, for as little as $5, you too can avoid self-hosting PocketBase. We also have a few lifetime deals left if you guys are into the LTD of it all. So give PocketHost a try. It's what I use for all my development on this channel. I'm also the creator of the completely open source project PocketPages. PocketPages is a return to server-side pages. This is not SSR, this is server-side pages. Think old school PHP. With it, you can leverage the PocketBased JSVM to write server-side code that does everything you want. And we just released a new version in this episode. We're working on an open source real-time game powered by PocketBase named Kingdom. Kingdom also uses PocketHost and PocketPages. Join in as we add features and playtest live. Don't forget about our Discord community, over 1,500 members. You get notified every time PocketBased goes live. You can chat with people, have fun, get support. It's a really awesome community. So jump on in. We'll make you feel right at home. All right, let's get into it. In this episode, we add battles to Kingdom. Are you ready? Let's go.
So the first battle takes out both of those tiles. Because my opponent chose to focus the combined power of 3 tiles against 1 tile, and because they aren't attacking any alternate tiles, these 2 tiles were ineffective in this battle. In the next step, our drilling strategy appears to have worked. We attacked that tile and were obliterated in the process, but we're beginning to create a clear way out. Let's continue. In the third battle, our strategy of protecting our flank actually worked. And in the final battle, the remaining 2 cells obliterate each other. For fun, I can watch the whole animation from each player's point of view. And now we head into round 2 with a brand new race against the clock. I haven't found the Bitcoin yet, so I'm going to start a grid search here to see if I can find the cell that contains the Bitcoin. And maybe my opponent sees what I'm doing and attempts the same thing. Aha, we found the Bitcoin. So now both players know where the Bitcoin is. This should cause a land grab. I immediately close in on the neighboring piece, and I stack up to fortify my position. And I'm imagining that my opponent is fortifying his position in the Bitcoin cell as well, and probably fortifying the positions around him. But my opponent is out of shards and I am not, although I only know that because I'm seeing both screens. So I'm going to mount a significant offense in an attempt to take over that Bitcoin cell. Now, I don't know it yet, but if I attempt to attack that Bitcoin cell, I'm going to find out that it's 11 versus 13. However, my opponent, understanding what's at stake, is going to attack me with everything he's got. Now, understand what's at play here. We have a cell with a strength of 11 shards versus a cell with a strength of 13 shards. However, the 2 cells below, with a respective strength of 2 and 1, are also both attacking that 13 strength. If these cells are successful in attacking first before this one, which is random, the Kingdom game engine shuffles and executes the battles in a random sequence. If these 2 pawns can damage this first, then this 11 can actually beat this 13. Now, neither player actually knows that this is the situation, but we do because we're watching. So let's compute the battle once again and see how it turns out. There, I've just hit the animation. We're seeing what happens. Okay, so let's take this in slow motion. In battle number 1, my opponent's tile falls to my superior power. So I've gained a tile on the board. In battle number 2, my opponent's tile falls again to my superior power. But that's created exactly the beginning of the problem I described, because look at this, now it's down to 12 instead of 13. So I've picked up 2 tiles, but at the expense of this 12, now it's 12 versus 11. Let's see what happens next. Okay, I picked up another tile because my enemy's tiles are very weak. Next battle, I picked up a tile, but look what happened. Now I'm down to 10. 10 isn't going to be enough for this final battle. So in the end, I lose ground to my opponent in the most important battle, to overtake and hold the Bitcoin sell. So this is Kingdom, guys. Pretty exciting, and we're only playing with 2 players. We were doing some PocketPages updates, and we made a bunch of separate updates that I had not committed. I often will do that as part of my development process, where I'm building an app and I'm going into PocketPages and building some features or fixing some bugs to support it, and it's all just kind of sitting there in the working directory. So we untangled all of those changes, made separate commits for each one, in most cases made changelogs for each one, and then we just released version 11.6 of PocketPages, and it has a bunch of little improvements. Chief among those, we now have a shuffle function available, and we can now resolve style tags in addition to script tags. The rest, I think, are bug fixes and niceties. Oh, the other thing is I made internal PocketPages debugging messages disabled by default, so you can enable those in config.js if you ever want to. I like to when I'm working on PocketPages internals, but there's almost no reason under normal circumstances where you would want that. Maybe if you were debugging routes or something, you'd want it. But anyway, those are the updates. We also made a little fix to a PocketBase EJS regression having to do with handling bad request error and exception tracebacks. We updated the documentation. We published to NPM version 11.6, and you see the badge showing up here. So those are the PocketPages updates today. The only other housekeeping things I want to do in PocketPages, since we are in here already, we have this whole docs next folder, which is irrelevant now. So I'm going to eliminate that. That will significantly reduce the documentation footprint. You can see here we're syncing to PocketHost, where the PocketPages documentation is hosted, and it just removed that whole docs next folder, 7 megabytes. If you're curious at all, here I am in PocketHost, and I've got one in here called PocketPages. This is using a custom domain name, so when you go to pocketpages.dev, it's actually hosted on PocketHost. All of my stuff is. I'm eating my own dog food, and sometimes the days are good, and sometimes the days are, well, wanting of bug fixes. But in any case, since we are syncing to PocketPages, we're using this command line called fio-dev. I'm not sure if it's actually mentioned anywhere on the PocketHost website that there is a command line tool. I don't think I've put it up here. But in any case, there is a command line tool. It's called Fio. You can log in, you can list your projects, your instances. This dev command will push local changes to your remote instance and watch for changes. It's really cool. It makes it so you can live edit really easily. You can also view live logs. So I use that in every one of my projects. PocketPages has a documentation site that goes with it. I use Fio to sync the doc pages to the PocketHost instance of PocketPages. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit here and go into a deep dive looking at how this battle feature was actually built. Sometimes a feature touches every file so extensively that it feels like a rewrite, and that's the case for this feature branch. It's a huge merge, and it would be really difficult to ask this of a team. Let's see if it's possible to commit any of this in any kind of coherent way. It looks to me like we added max rounds to constants.js, and that we also adjusted the TTL on the phases just for testing purposes. First of all, let's revert this. Good, that's back to normal 30-second rounds. And we can safely commit this max rounds change separately. We'll just call it default max rounds, commit that. Let's get that out of the way. We've got a couple files down here that we do not need in the merge, so we can immediately get rid of those. I imported immer.js, but I actually ended up not using it. And in order to get it working, I had to comment out 3 exports that are not critical to the functionality of Immer, but I haven't tested it. In any case, this doesn't need to make it into our final code base, so that one can go away as well. So look what I'm doing here. I'm trying to chop down the commits into reasonable bite-sized pieces that can be compatible and stand alone. But I'm already telling you a lot of this is not going to work out. It's just too commingled. Room.js has all these crazy changes. There's a new file named battle. There's a new file named util. Oh, the attack handler actually did just have a little fix in it. So let's commit that separately. We'll just get any little thing we can. So I'll say attack handler referencing incorrect cell index in error messages. We'll commit that separately. That can stand alone. Join is all different. Advanced is a new file. Login is different. Particle CS and JS are new, and they relate to those particle physics for the explosions. And then index.js has so many changes, and all of these are, yeah, guys, I just don't see anything else to reduce this merge. I'm not going to go over all of this code. Suffice it to say, it takes advantage of PocketBase's real-time messaging system significantly. Probably the best place to see that is in this route named advance. Advance is responsible for advancing from one round to the next. So if we're in the placement phase and we should advance the game, then it advances to the assignment phase, sets the TTL to the default assignment TTL, and that's it. Pretty simple. Up here, the advanced game function modifies the room state, sets the step to whatever the new step is, date stamps when the step started, calls any custom mutators, and then saves the room state. Now here is the magic. This push room state delta hasn't changed very much, but it did change enough that it's worth talking about. So remember from episode 21, we talked about this deferred strategy so that we can get out of the transaction as quickly as possible and defer the non-transactional work that needs to happen until after the transaction completes. Well, that's what this is doing here. We also have the assignment phase, which is quite a bit more detailed and pushes many more real-time details, because the assignment phase, when it's time to advance to the war phase, we have to calculate the war results. Calculating the war results happens here in battle.js, and it's about 100 lines of logic. It's not too bad. But right here, all attacks, it gathers up, there's that shuffle that I added to PocketPages. This is why. It rounds up all the pairs of cells attacking each other, shuffles them so the attacks happen in random order, and then evaluates the attacks. And look right here, it calculates an outcome. If the health of the first cell is greater than the health of the second cell, then the first cell will win. If it's reversed, the second cell will win, and if they're tied, nobody wins, both cells die. Then we do some health calculations, but look, here's the real magic that happens with the custom real-time messages we're sending out of PocketBase. We need to know how to modify the game state based on the outcome of each of these battles. So we have a private set of deltas that is visible only to the game engine. We have a public set of deltas that will be sent out to any client that's listening. Then we have specific paths that are sent to each of the players involved in the battle. They have different points of view, different perspectives on the outcome. So we've got 4 different sets of deltas here that are necessary to mutate the game state for this battle. Now, before we loop back up and compute the next battle, we need to mutate the private game state that we're storing server side, because the next battle might depend on the outcome of the previous battle. There might not be a player in the cell anymore. So I had to account for this kind of stuff, and it did take a lot of thought. It took a lot of careful reasoning, but that's how the battle is calculated. And it's cool because it's an open source project, so anybody can go in and inspect that the battle is indeed being calculated fairly. The biggest thing I might change in here at some point is perhaps providing the ability during the assignment phase to indicate what order you want your tiles to attack your opponents. Now, whether you get to attack first or your opponent gets to attack first may still be random chance, but you might be able to assign the order because it was strategically important that the battle played out in a certain way. But as in regular battle, sometimes all you can do is hope.
We also added an apply deltas function that understands how to handle wildcards in the paths. This allows me to do a mass assignment to a bunch of grid cells using a single delta. We're able now, with the latest release of PocketPages, to share code between the front end and back end. Apply deltas is used in the back end, and it's also included in the front end as a script tag that will inline the contents of that JS file. This is a handy way to expose private chunks of code without making them actually routable. And they're still discoverable from the front end and the back end using the resolve function. Originally, apply deltas was only used on the front end, but I arrived at a use case where I needed it for the back end, and I didn't want to duplicate the code. So that's why I added that PocketPages feature. The watcher logic is dramatically improved, as is the timer logic. We have a bunch of new stuff added in here about battles, pausing battles, toggling battles, playing battles. I fiddled around for a long time trying to find an approach to battle playback and scrubbing, because it gets very confusing to try to keep track of what's actually happening during the battle. So the scrubbing feature was very important, as well as the ability to play it because, well, that's just fun. You get to see all the explosions popping off, and it's just fun chaos. We also tightened up the UX and layout quite a bit. Like if I tap on a cell and get an error message, see it says not enough shards, but then it reverts back to the prompt for what the hell you're supposed to be doing this round. So we give up a little bit of fixed real estate right at the top where we can have all our notifications and round specific controls. And then our grid doesn't jump around. So I'm gonna make a change set for this. We'll stage every single bit of this and say feature battles. Once I have that, I'll do a version release, and we are at version 9. Commit that, tag it, and we're good to go. We've just made a massive commit and massively improved the fun factor of this game. All right, guys, I think for today, we're gonna end it there. Had some technical difficulties with the mic in the beginning. Thanks for reporting that. When we come back tomorrow, we're gonna put some more polish on Kingdom and make sure it can successfully cycle through rounds and actually be playable. We'll see you guys in the next one.